So I just made a video of 5 anime similar to My Hero Academia, and well, honestly I was a little surprised, but a lot of you guys wanted another one of these. So I figured Death Note, being the opposite side of the spectrum from My Hero Academia as far as good anime goes. So once again, I will be analyzing the components that make Death Note,
potato chips not included,
and what make it so awesome, and I will give you several recommendations that fall into each component, and then 2 that don't particularly fall into any category, but are awesome and similar nonetheless. Before I begin, let me tell you 2 mainstream honorable mentions, since I'll be ranging from semi-mainstream shows to shows that you probably never heard of. Being that a lot of people watched Death Note and have not watched a lot of other anime, and this Netflix Death Note movie is bringing people into the medium, for mainstream series you need to see, we have Code Geass and Fate Zero. Both strategy-heavy and action-based, unbelievable anime that I personally think are both better than Death Note, but that's a debate for another video. I highly recommend both of these, but I don't want to dwell on the subject because most anime fans have seen them. So let's get into the 5 recommendations. The first component of Death Note that I think everyone loves is its arbitrary justice. The battle discussing what justice actually is between Light and L. Being that you're here, I assume you've seen Death Note and I don't have to go into it, and I'm sure you all know exactly what I mean, because in the end of the day, Light saved millions of people by killing hundreds of thousands. So was he right or wrong? Well, this justice judging immediately made me decide to put Death Parade on the list. In Death Parade, there's this guy named Dekim running a bar,
who will give you 12 episodes to debate whether his hair is emo or just gay.
And 2 people walk into the bar.
No, this is not a knock-knock joke.
He tells them they have to play a game. They play an interesting game with interesting rules in which Dekim manipulates the circumstances to bring out the evil in both parties. It is later revealed that this bar that they are playing these games in is a purgatory, where they will be judged if they will end up reincarnated or going to the void, basically heaven or hell. This is going all nicely with Dekim as an arbiter, but it isn't so easy to judge a certain human, and she affects him because she has a completely different view on justice, and why some people should be judged differently than Dekim is actually judging them. The setting is fascinating. The progressive story doesn't hold a candle to Death Note. I'll just say it like that. I'm not trying to trick you into watching a series, but every episode has as much character development and the characters we see than most series have in a full 25 episode runtime. But I don't have all day, so let's move on to Psycho Pass. In a dystopian future, there's the Sybil system, which basically is used to govern the world. It measures the mindset and emotions of every person, and if it psychoanalyzes and finds their numbers are too high, and they are prone to commit crimes and murders and stuff, they are immediately sent to prison despite not doing anything wrong. There's an obvious dispute as far as justice goes throughout the beginning of the series, and then the plot twist halfway through this twisted, distorted world is only further mind-blowing. Let's muddle into the slightly more obscure with Hell Girl. Under the right conditions, someone can get this Hell Girl to do him a little favor and put one person that he decides in hell. The cost is his own soul. While the storyline is more episodic than a flowing, strategic masterpiece like Death Note is, every episode has its characters that you like, its characters that you hate, and characters that go up and down in their decision making. Once again, deciding what justice really is, and if it's worth sacrificing themselves for it. And if you've seen all of those, then you can check out Codebreaker. It's not my favorite anime, not by a long shot. It's about a girl who witnesses a dude off some other fellas, and they have this justice debate the entire way through the anime as well. But just to be clear, it is not as good as the last 3 I've mentioned in this category. The second category I'd like to bring light to is the battle of wit and manipulation that we see all over Death Note, as basically its strong suit. So as far as games go, I'd like to recommend Kaiji, the ultimate survivor. Yes, he looks like Pinocchio, and yes, the art style is all in all a little strange. But the strategies this Kaiji guy deploys to win these games he's forced to participate in are truly genius. Very similar to Kaiji in my opinion is One Outs, an anime I actually like more, and while it seems to be stupid and about baseball, this pitcher guy can almost put Light Yagami to shame, where he can destroy the average batter before he throws his first pitch. I love that dude, and I love this show, and I highly recommend it to everyone, yes, even though it's about baseball.
Every match feels like Hunter x Hunter's dodgeball match, and that's possibly because the pitcher reminds me a hell of a lot like Hisoka, another anime mastermind.
Moving on, Legend of the Galactic Heroes is an anime that's quite old, and many people haven't seen it. In fact, I haven't even seen the whole thing myself, but I do think it is quite a bit better than Death Note is, with amazing strategies between epic generals on a massive intergalactic battle.
Also, just note the crispness of the animation and art style. It's beautiful.
There's no need to press the subject, because we have 91 days.
Which can also be called 3 months, because the story takes place in 3 months. Not that that really has any bearing on the actual story.
A story about somebody who wanted revenge on a mafia family for killing out his family. So he turns his manipulation buttons on overdrive and infiltrates their family to destroy them from the inside. I thoroughly loved this series despite it not getting all that much hype when it aired last year, and while a lot of what Havilio does is subtle, a lot of it is really genius. Next, I would like to turn your attention to Gankutsuo, the Count of Monte Cristo. For all of you who did not read the book, and I assume that's many because it's like a 14,000 page book, this anime is still different. It takes place 5,000 years in the future, and the story is told from a completely different angle. I feel like telling you why this anime is good is already spoiler territory, so I'm just gonna tell you this. I loved everything about Gankutsuo, except for that semi-wimp protagonist-like kid thing, with the Count being possibly my favorite anime character of all time. Not knowing if he's good or if he's bad throughout the entire series, but he has a plan, and the way every single piece of the puzzle that he lays out falls into place is brilliant. And in case you've watched all of those, an extremely underground anime that you probably never heard of, Spiral: The Bond of Reasoning. Once again, it's a battle of strategies and a battle of wit, and it's not nearly as good as anything else here, but if you've watched all of them, then I guess you're gonna have no choice but to try out Spiral. Part 3, I would like to talk about the facade of the protagonist and the monster within everyone. Another thing I loved about Death Note is Light's development. While I did not particularly like Light as a character, I cannot deny that his portrayal was pretty genius, as his growth was apparent the entire way through the anime, and how he was able to keep a straight face in front of his colleagues. First, as kind of like a throwout, I'd like to mention Durarara, because the protagonist of Durarara on the outside looks like a total nobody, but is secretly managing a massive crime syndicate. Believe it or not, there are 3 protagonists to this series, and they are all managing their individual underground gang of sorts. And also there's Izaya Orihara. That guy's literally Light Yagami, except cooler. Anyway, moving on to Monster, an insanely underwatched anime because it's old and because it's 74 episodes, but it does not get slow for a minute in those 74 heart-riveting episodes. The story follows Tenma, a brilliant brain surgeon who's about to start operating on a kid to save his life, an incredibly complex surgery, when the mayor also needed a surgery done that was not so complex. So despite his orders, he left the mayor to a colleague of his who was also a qualified brain surgeon, and he went to save the boy. The boy was saved, and unfortunately, the mayor died on the table. The hospital director who originally told him to save the mayor was, needless to say, furious and proceeded to destroy his life. Morally held high, however, Tenma, the protagonist, was slightly crushed, but knew he did the right thing until he realizes the truth of this child that he's saved and what this child is. That's why this series is called Monster. Johann Liebert, the child, is one of my favorite anime villains of all time, and his back and forth chase and truths revealed makes Monster one of my favorite anime, so I highly recommend it to everyone despite it being old and despite it being 74 episodes. It's really good shit. And as far as my final 2 recommendations, number 4, I have Zankyo no Terror, an anime that I also wanted to put on this list right when I was thinking about Death Note because it's also sort of about terrorists where the police are trying to catch them. While their goals are completely different than Light, and while they are purposefully laying clues out for the police to find out what they're about to do. It was 11 episodes, there was brilliant thinking on both sides, and honestly, it was a really good underwatched anime, so I definitely recommend it to everyone. And finally, my 5th recommendation as an individual anime is Bakuman. What? Bakuman? That anime about drawing manga for 75 episodes? Yeah. Believe it or not, it really gives off a Death Note vibe. And that's possibly because the person that wrote Death Note also wrote Bakuman, a literal opposite of Death Note. And while there's nothing I can say that will convince you that it's similar to Death Note in any way, there are many similarities in just the writing style alone and character growth.
Also, do you remember the awesomeness of the potato chip scene in the actual Death Note? Making mundane amazing? Well, this anime doesn't have anything to do with that. It actually makes sense.
So, I will leave you with that for now. A list of all the anime I mentioned will be in the description, so if you missed anything, just go check it out there. If you want other anime recommendations, like other anime, leave a suggestion, and if there's anything you want aside from that, feel free to let me know. And for all those thousands of comments I've been getting on where Boruto Abridged Episode 2 is, it's in production, takes a hell of a long time to edit, and since there are so many characters, it's hard to just gather all the voices together. So, as an update, we are in the editing stage, which is good. And also, as far as the honest descriptions on the Shippuden arcs, believe it or not, that is in production as well. I just finished the script today, so you should be seeing it soon.
I would also love if you guys could let me know if you want to see a sarcastic analysis on the potato chip scene. I have something amazing in store. Let me know in the comments. If you'd like to hear me and a couple other YouTubers rant on the live-action Death Note Netflix movie, we did a live stream about that, so link in the description. Speaking of, I live stream on Anime Uproar's channel about once a week, so if you'd like to be notified notified when that happens, feel free to follow me on Twitter. And I'm also on Anime Uproar's Discord, and you're all, of course, welcome there. Link in the description, too.
Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you have a most wonderful evening, and I'll see you next time.